Hello, oboephile! Are you about to start learning how to play the oboe? Is oboe an instrument you've always wanted to play, but you're not sure what instrument to start out with? Is the oboe a vegetable? Well, today we are going to answer all of those questions by trying out some beginner model oboes from different makers. So we have a Bundy, a Yamaha, a Bucher, and a Renard Fox that I'm going to compare and contrast. So I've scraped up a student oboe reed, which you can find on oboephiles.com if you need a reed to start playing with, as well as tons of other free oboe resources. And we're going to try to play test all of these oboes and see what we think. So let's get into it. So before we play test these, don't forget to like and subscribe below. It really helps the channel out a lot to hit that thumbs up button, so thanks a lot. Okay, so first up, we've got the Bundy. This is I guess it's a brand made by Selmer, which makes really great saxophones, I think trumpets and other instruments, I'm sure, clarinets maybe. But Bundy is like their student line, I guess. And this instrument is of course made of plastic. It is missing a few of the keys, B flat, the ring on the D. It's got a closed F sharp, kind of make it easier to play. And the reason they leave out a lot of these keys is to make the instrument lighter, so it's not so heavy, which is a good idea if you're a small kid. So one of the issues I find on a lot of beginner oboes is it's really hard to get the low notes to seal. This one does seal, not as well as like a professional oboe that I'm used to, but they do close, which is great. So that means that you will be able to get the low notes out if you're learning to play the oboe for the first time, which is a feat of itself. It also tells me that this oboe can be adjusted, which is not always true for some like cheaper beginner oboe makes. So that's good with this one. Let's just play like a tune on it so we can get some point of reference. So that's the Bundy from Selmer. My favorite thing about the beginning oboes also is they have a hole on the bell, which I guess is supposed to make the low B natural more in tune. So that's an interesting little thing. Let's try the Yamaha next. So this is a Yamaha 221. It's the beginner oboe from Yamaha. Again, it doesn't have a lot of the keys. It is missing low B flat, for example. Some of the keys have closed holes to make it easier to play. This one does have a C to C sharp trill key, which is interesting if you are starting out. I guess you could use that, but most beginners wouldn't be using that anyway. And again, that's to make the keys lighter. Okay, so I like the tone on this one just a little bit better, but let's check the low notes. Oh wow, that feels a lot better. It's not perfect, but... definitely playable. Okay, so the Yamaha actually feels a little bit better in my hands. With the Bundy, I was noticing that some of the keys didn't really move as much as I'm used to. The Yamaha has a little bit more, I guess, higher levers on the keys. And you can still play all the high notes on the beginner oboe, so that's awesome. And yeah, the low notes feel a lot better on this guy. So that's the Yamaha 221. Let's compare it now to the Bucher. I'm not actually sure how to say that. I'll put it on the screen so you can read it. It must be like a German name though. So this is the Bucher Aristocrat. What a great name. And again, it's got that cool little hole on the bell to make the low B happen. It is missing the low B flat also. This one has keys that are a lot shinier, so I wonder if they used more silver plating than the other oboes. The metalwork looks a lot skinnier though, so I wonder if that was in an effort to make the instrument lighter again. And all these instruments are plastic and they feel quite light, so that's good for small hands and kids. Okay, so it feels much different than the other two oboes. The other thing I'm noticing is down here with the bridge keys, they're much skinnier, so you need to make sure you put it together a little bit more precisely. Let's see if I can get the low notes to seal a little bit better this time. Okay, so they definitely happen, but I do have to really voice them down and not touch the reed at all. Oh, that is tough. So in Texas, a lot of the band programs will provide instruments for the students, especially oboes. So students don't often get to choose which of the group of oboes they get. And this one doesn't feel great in my hand. If I was a student, I'd probably want to get one of the other two that I've tried so far. But then again, you can make it seal. So I guess every oboe can work. You have to just play the note you want. And for the first year of playing, this is probably going to be just fine for an instrument. So this is the Bucher Aristocrat. I'm not really sure about the history of the brand or the instrument. I'll look it up and include something in the description if I find it. Or if you know anything about Bucher Aristocrats, please let me know in the comments. So hopefully you can hear a difference in the tone, response kind of thing with the Bucher Aristocrat. Let's finally try the Renard Fox. Okay, so I'm actually not sure what the Renard Fox model is called. It doesn't say so on the instrument itself, but I'll look it up and put it in the description or right here on the screen somewhere so you know what to look up. The Renard Fox student model actually has all the keys, so that's super interesting. It's got the low B flat, it's got the left hand F, it's got both trill keys, it has the G sharp trill key, so it's a little bit heavier than the other oboes we've tried so far, but let's try it out and see how it sounds. So the low B flat feels pretty good on this instrument. The low notes do seal a little better than I was expecting, so that's good. I think this instrument may be considered more of an intermediate oboe, but if it's priced right, it might make sense for a beginner to use and then use for longer than they would one of the other instruments. That's the sad thing about oboes. I actually wrote an article about beginning oboes, which I'll put in the description, is that you probably won't use them for that long. So sometimes it's better to get a little bit better oboe that you can use for longer, because the price is going to be a factor here. So better pay a little bit more for an oboe you can use for twice as long. So that was the beginner oboes. This was the Renard Fox, and before we had the Bucher Aristocrat, and before that we had the Yamaha, I think it was 211, and then the Bundy from somewhere. So if you're looking for a beginner oboe and you need help, don't hesitate to leave a comment or send me a message on oboefiles.com. And if you're not looking for beginner oboe, but maybe you're teaching beginner oboes, or maybe you were a beginner oboe, or maybe you just played a saxophone or something else, when in doubt, play beautifully.